It's been a while since I've looked at a bad game, like a really awful, truly terrible one. So I scoured Steam a bit, looking around and sorting games by review scores. A lot of the ones that are overwhelmingly negative didn't really seem like fun games to review. But then I came across Vendetta, Curse of the Raven's Cry. Although it has a mixed rating, at least at this current time, I was checking out some of the reviews and came across this one. Apparently, it was one of the worst rated games on Steam for a while, and then it got pulled and re-released under a somewhat different but still similar title. But we all know reviews can't entirely be trusted, including mine. Reviews are all opinions, and it's obvious that games I adore you might think are absolute crap, and vice versa. But all I can do is explain why the game is crap, and yes, this one is crap. For one, the story. It's not something that hooked me in at all. In the opening video, which oddly enough combines CGI, cartoon-like stills, and in-game engine-rendered scenes, you find you play as Christopher Raven, a pirate captain who has a pet raven. Go figure. Because of course he does. He looks the part, complete with the hooked hand, and the story revolves around him trying to get revenge or something. I'll be honest, I don't remember much of it at all. The game begins with a naval battle, and then you get some weird drawn cutscenes that attempt to explain the story. From what I've read, it has something to do with his family getting murdered, and Christopher is out to hunt down the guy who did it. The thing is, I got about maybe 5-6 hours into the game, and I felt like the plot was not progressing at all. All I was doing was sailing from one city to another, completing minor side objectives, and when I finally got around to doing a main story mission, the game skidded to a complete halt. But I don't want to talk about it yet, because that would be getting far ahead of myself. Vendetta, Curse of the Raven's Cry is a third-person action game. It almost sort of feels like it was trying to mimic Assassin's Creed Black Flag, an infinitely better game in my opinion. There are naval battles, islands to sail to, people to talk to, criminals to sword fight, some minor gunplay with your flintlock pistols, and so on. You run around talking to people who look like they have something to say, and if they give you a quest, more markers are thrown on your minimap, of which it's kinda hard to understand. The blips on them are so damn tiny that you usually have to bring up the full screen map in order to understand what any of the icons are, and even in there they are minuscule. Also, each island has a town and a massive other area that composes the wildlife. Honestly, I never even really bothered exploring these areas. I'm not sure if there's really a point. Maybe the hunting gets you extra XP, maybe there's treasures out there, maybe the Yeti is out there watching Twitch with the Loch Ness Monster. Who the hell knows? I wasn't about to go check it out. And why is that? Well, the less combat I had to do, the better. That's because the controls of the game absolutely blow. At first, it's not so bad. The boat combat is competent enough, allowing you to use the left mouse button to fire to the left of your ship and right click to the right, along with key bindings to quickly appear to the opposite sides. I'd say port and starboard, but let's face it, I'm not a naval guy and I don't know which is which, so I'd rather not even bother. Plus, I'm lazy, and left and right are much easier for my pea-brain to understand. Anywho, you have 3 different shots available, each doing different types of damage. For example, you might want to destroy the sail to immobilize the enemy boat to allow you to attempt to board it easier. Or maybe the ship is just troublesome and you want to sink it as soon as possible. Steering the ship isn't half bad either. I've had some issues, sure, like in one battle where no matter what key I pressed, the ship was not moving forward, even though I didn't have any damage done to it. Turning is easy enough though. That I could do no problem. One thing I should mention is that when sailing from island to island, you might get into some random battles with other ships. It took me about 10 minutes to figure it out, but once you're done destroying the hostile ships, in order to exit this area, you have to open the map and choose your destination again. I thought I just had to sail to the edges of the battle arena, but nope. Why doesn't the game tell you this is beyond me, as this is the kind of tutorial information that would be useful to have. The game's manual doesn't say anything about it either, so I'm sure I'm not the only person that didn't know how to get out of here. Anyway, naval combat is just one small part of the game's action. There are going to be plenty of sword fights that Christopher is going to get into, and this is where the poop hits those spinning blades. The combat is some of the worst I've ever seen in any game, and that's saying a lot. This is also where the control issues really come into play. There is a noticeable delay when you press a key or mouse button and when Chris actually attacks, and that's if anything happens at all. I've had it where Chris glitches, and every time I attempted to swipe my blade, he gets confused and acts like someone is pushing him or parrying him. I've had hits just flat out not register. But the biggest problem is that if it's anything more than a fair fight, as in more than one person that you're fighting, you are facing a seriously uphill battle. The sword Chris starts off with is painfully underpowered, and it takes way too many strikes to defeat an enemy. Enemies can stun lock you, as they will surround Chris and just keep attacking, so unless you manage to get all of them onto the same side of you, you're screwed. Adding that parrying doesn't always seem to work unless your timing is perfect, and you're going to be seeing the game over screen a lot. Once you're able to purchase a better weapon, things do get a little bit easier. Add in the stronger strikes that, although they don't seem to connect at times, once they do, you can get in some decent hits before the enemy just ignores the swipes and counters. You'll learn that the weaker left-click strikes are mostly useless. There are other attacks that Chris can get. He can use his hook to attack and allegedly rip out the enemy's throat, but I haven't seen it yet. He also gets a kick attack that's supposed to knock enemies to the ground for you to finish them off quickly. But again, that doesn't work. Anytime I kicked an enemy, they just rolled backwards, and that's if the kick even happens at all. Did it actually do damage? No idea. Knowing this game? Probably not, though. Chris can also use his pistol attack, but again, there are some problems with this mechanic. Once again, there's a huge delay between pressing the Q button to use the pistol and him actually pulling it out and shooting. By the time it happens, your enemy might have enough time to get close to Chris and move the pistol out of the way, making you miss the shot. If you want to try again, you'll need to get some space in between you and your enemy so that you have enough time to reload it. It's not worth it, as the damage it does is about as much as a strong strike or two. And if an animal attacks you, good luck. Due to their smaller size, they can hit you more times than you can strike them. And that's if you can even find them. There was a monkey throwing shit at me, and I didn't see him until he took out about 50% of my life. It's one of the many reasons why I didn't even bother exploring outside the towns. Finally, all of these attacks I mentioned are done only if the game feels like you should be doing them. Many times I pressed the key to do something and nothing happened. Locking on the enemies feels fruitless, as it only works when it wants to. This goes back to one on multiple battles. You can press tab to lock on, but to switch enemies, you have to press another key, and again, it doesn't always work. Or sometimes it'll lock onto the wrong enemy that you don't have focused. So to sum up the control scheme in one word, unresponsive. And the control oddities don't just stop in the combat. Chris can use his Raven to steal from unsuspecting NPCs that have a specific icon over their head. But in order to do this, you have to first press a key to enter sneak mode, then press the shortcut key to activate the bird, and then click the NPC you want to steal from. Each time. This feels overly complicated. Why can't I just press 3 like a normal game? You have to do this convoluted method to heal as well, although again, the game won't tell you this. It wasn't until about 3 or 4 hours into the game that I realized how to heal without entering the menu screen. Again, the tutorial should have explained this. Instead, the tutorial focused on you getting backstabbed and your ship blown up, so you have to escape the island by getting a different ship. Speaking of healing, Chris will obviously take damage in combat, but he's also a clumsy bastard. Falling from a higher platform over a foot high will probably cause damage. Seriously. I would understand this if he's drunk, but he seriously can't do this much harm to himself sober, right? I mean, if people took this kind of damage when tripping over their own feet, every hospital in the world would probably be overpopulated, and I would personally be there at least once a week. One thing the game does try to allow you to do is customize the crew for your ship. By doing side missions and talking with people, you can hire officers to help you out when out to sea. I can't say I noticed much of a difference since 5 or so hours in. I feel like I still didn't make much progress in the game, but the option is there, which I guess is kind of neat. You can also get a slight amount of customization options for your ship as well. Different options will alter the stats, such as a larger cargo space with the sacrifice of maximum crew members, something that might give your crew morale, and so on. You can also purchase goods and sell them at other ports, potentially giving the game a bit of a simulation style. I didn't mess around with this much, but it seemed competent enough, although the options weren't exactly explained to me at all. It's another one of those things that the game expects you to figure out on your own, and it's not user-friendly. You do have to keep track of your rations of your ship, though. From what I can gather, if you don't have enough food or rum for your crew, they might get a bit feisty and possibly ignore your commands, and make any boarding actions to enemy ships have a lower chance of success. Again, I haven't been able to get to further parts of the game to truly test this theory, but I want to mention it regardless. So why wasn't I able to finish the game? Well, I was doing a main story mission where I had to find a pirate flag from a deceased pirate and fly it on my own ship in order to gain access to an island in the middle of the Caribbean. Of course, you'll encounter hostile entities, and after a bit of fighting, I realized I was vastly outgunned. So I just tried to outmaneuver the ship through the rocks to get to my objective location. Well, I was able to do this, but the enemy ship started shooting me through the damn rock formations. And I tried this a few times, and it happened each time, sinking my ship every freaking time. It was here where I called it quits. I tried. Oh boy, have I tried to complete this section to keep slogging through this pile of shit of a game. But even I have to call it quits at this level of frustration, which was disappointing since I had a brand new sword that made sword fights at least a little bit bearable. And I kid you not, this is after I spent an hour or more on one friggin' encounter with 4 or 5 thugs. I don't normally rage at video games, but I was in full-on rage mode when playing this game. So much so, my cat hid in my room. The graphics of the game aren't awful, and truthfully, they're probably the strongest part of the game. Some parts look like PS2 era graphics, but most PS3 era. Animations are a bit odd, I will say that. Some of the movements look a bit stilted, and once again, the combat shines as being a complete turd in terms of smoothness. But other parts, like the water and inside the buildings, look decent enough. Sure, it's not even close to the level of AAA games, but that's to be expected with what is obviously a budget game. The voiceovers are kind of odd though. Some of the characters vary depending on what lines they are reading, main character Christopher Raven included. Not to mention a lot of the accents make you go, WTF, where are these people really from? Some of the line deliveries actually had me laughing out loud, I kid you not. And then there were a few scenes where each of the actors sounded like they were in completely different studios using different equipment. It blows my mind that the developers thought that this was normal and fine to release it this way. A bit of quality control goes a long way. Oh, wait, I forgot. Quality control doesn't exist anymore in the modern days where you can just patch a game to cover for lazy programming and development. When you get down to it, Vendetta Curse of the Raven's Cry is just a poor game. It would be a mediocre game if it wasn't down to the horribly unresponsive control schemes. The combat alone makes the game almost unplayable, and then add in the various glitches such as the one I encountered with the ships firing through solid objects, and then it becomes virtually impossible to progress in. I got this game on sale for $5, and even that was too much. It's going to go into my completion and probable grouping on Steam, for me to probably never touch again. Stay far, far away from this one. Final score? 2 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.